Good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be back and to be able to host, along with Richard Davies from Revolut, this Fireside Chat. So I'm Jill Docherty, Executive Director of Business Development for Visa, UK and Ireland, and I really wanted to wish a warm welcome to Richard Davies. Just in terms of the scene and structuring the session today, I thought what we could do is just allow Richard to give some insight into his background, how he got where he is today, his current role at Revolut, and then the future role that he'll take on with Revolut. Thereafter, we thought it would be great to have a couple of pointed questions for Richard to answer, to just give us some context and talk about the industry and the ecosystem changes and kind of some of the everlasting effects that we think that we're going to see from COVID, and just get some insight from Richard on that context and those areas. So let's kick it off. Over to you, Richard, if you want to just give some kind of insight into your background and where you got where you are today.
Great, thanks, Jill. Great to be here. So yeah, I mean, background-wise, I started life as a strategy consultant, working in a number of sectors, including FS, and then sort of jumped properly into FS full-time in 2004, and then I've worked really for a range of different players over that 16-year period, particularly including Barclays, Oak North, and HSBC. And I joined Revolut just over a year ago as part of, I guess, the group's really scaling up and was seeking to professionalize and go global. So I joined as COO and head of banking for the group, and yeah, been quite a journey since then. We've established leadership teams and operations in places like Ireland, US, Australia, Singapore. We've rolled out banking, so depositing and credit products are licensed in Europe, in Lithuania. Done a lot of work around strengthening risk management, compliance. Raised over $500 million in equity, and the customer base and revenues have grown more than 2.5 times. So, kind of hell of a journey to date. And yeah, it was announced about a week and a half ago that I'm going to change role at Revolut. So I'm going to stay with Revolut in a non-executive capacity. But from an executive point of view, I'm going to move to be CEO of Alaka Bank, which is a reasonably newly licensed UK bank focused on the business sector and particularly business lending, which actually is a lot of what I've done for the prior 15 years before joining Revolut, and is a real passion of mine. And I think at the moment, with sort of the impact of COVID, it's really disrupted the business lending sector, so that businesses that are not impacted or even positively impacted by COVID are seeing a real shortage of supply of lending. And I think it's just such an important thing to try and help solve, given the importance of that to the UK economy and the recovery post-COVID. So yeah, very keen to go and get stuck in and help on that side of things, while continuing to provide some advice to Revolut. So yeah, that's me.
Wow, fantastic, and a great career and a really exciting time for you, Richard. And we wish you much luck in that new exciting kind of endeavour. And I think you're right. I think, you know, the role and the opportunity in terms of credit in the UK and Ireland post-COVID is an exciting one. And I think, you know, you're going to do exceptionally well in the space. So we wish you, as I said, much luck. So if we think about just kind of the last 4 or 5 months, I mean, how has Revolut approached the challenges that are kind of been brought about by, you know, the new normal or by COVID? Like, what did you do in those early days back in kind of March when you went down into lockdown, both from a business and from an overall management perspective? How did you think about this? How did you unpack it? You know, are there any key insights, tips and tricks that you can give to the audience today?
Yeah, so I mean, probably started in February, actually. I remember we had the closing dinner for the $500 million fundraise, and we were sort of talking a lot about this back then. And you could see sort of with Italy in lockdown back then,
Yeah.
you could start to see in our country level data the impact on particularly physical card transactions really starting to flow through. So then, yeah, I guess during March we were focusing on a lot, and as it became clear that this thing was going to be Europe and worldwide, you started to forecast forwards the impact from a revenue point of view, yeah, I think our predictions have been kind of largely borne out, not in any sort of precise way, but in aggregate, kind of broadly accurate. So yeah, I guess use of data to sort of try and predict the future is important, particularly in times where you have a hell of a lot of change going on very rapidly. And I think that's one of the advantages we have with a sort of multi-country footprint is you can kind of see something happening someplace that helps predict somewhere else. I think you then kind of pretty rapidly played into the challenges I'm sure everyone faced around ensuring that your operations were robust as you moved to full remote working. And I mean, that for us was global. So we have our own operations in places like Poland, Portugal, Lithuania. We've also got our third-party operations in Philippines, in India. So sort of one of those things you'd never really predict, I think, is all of your operational centers sort of going to sort of the office being shut kind of within a week period. But fortunately, we're I guess clearly at the leading edge of technology, so the ability to work remotely is very high, and in fact a lot of people do that anyway. So the disruption there was pretty limited, which was great. I think the other thing then it also made us focus on was supply chain. So how are other suppliers in your ecosystem that are key part of your customer services being impacted, and make sure you've got really robust management around that. Which, I mean, I'm not sure is really related to COVID, but clearly we saw Wirecard sadly explode about a month ago.
Yeah.
And that was a service that Revolut had extensively used historically, but actually not particularly related to COVID, but for a number of months, given their issues, we've been focusing on that. But I think with COVID, we have seen a number of suppliers have some difficulties and needs close management. And then I guess you get to the kind of then the ongoing impact around revenue, which I mean certainly saw a hit, particularly into April. Some recovery May, June, July, but we're still not at the heights of sort of February in terms of levels of spend, clearly. So that then leads you to how do you make yourself sustainable economically? And yeah, a lot of action taken there around cost. So sort of the current plan looks quite different to the plan we raised funds around. So we've cut marketing, we did cut back on staff somewhat, and we've also cut back on vendor costs. So trying to make sure your costs are changing similarly to your revenues. So I think coming out of that, we feel pretty good that there's still a path to profitability. We are now seeing revenue growth month on month again, and the costs are well controlled. And it was nice to get the validation of that with the recent $80 million of investment coming in.
And congrats on that. I mean, I think that's a massive outcome given the context and the environment that we're in. And I think, kudos to the team in terms of the agility around Wirecard and really minimizing the customer impact there, because ultimately that's what it's all about. So I think, having been one of your long-standing partners in terms of the relationship you have with Visa, I think it was great to see that your business was able to quickly respond to the contextual changes there and minimize any customer impact in terms of ability to access or load funds. So kudos to the team there. I think it was brilliant. I think you raise a really good point around costs and OPEX. I mean, is there anything else that you can think about, Richard, or just commentary that you can give for the audience today around this new normal and how you think about it now in your hypergrowth kind of scale mode? I certainly know that as we partner together, you had strong aspirations as a business to conquer a number of markets into fiscal year, kind of 21, 22, 23. Has any of that changed, or are you just kind of thinking about what that looks like? Is there anything that you're able to share with the audience around kind of that scale and that kind of hyper growth that we've sort of seen in the last 3 to 4 years from Revolut?
Yeah, I think hyper growth is definitely the word. I remember picked up the Tech Track 100 fastest growing company award last year. I think the 3-year growth rate at that point was 500% annual average, which is pretty high.
Pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
And our sort of annual results we kind of released last week and showed kind of nearly tripling revenue again in 2019. So yeah, definitely a lot of growth there. I think we've worked hard to sort of make sure we've got the kind of control and sustainability alongside that growth, and things like Wirecard hopefully evidence that. I mean, I think with COVID, for us, it's been about not really changing the core strategy. So it's a very product-led company, and COVID has given a chance to double down on really strong product development. So that's been a positive. We have cut the marketing, so that has slowed the customer growth. So we're not spending money on acquiring customers, but we are still acquiring 10,000 plus customers a day organically via the product and the product market fit. So yeah, I think you kind of customer growth rates is slowed, but I guess that equally saves you a lot of cost and ultimately improves the economics of the business. So I think improving that product market fit even further, driving the organic growth is for us a very key part of the strategy. And I think if I talk more broadly on impact of COVID on kind of wider scaling growth businesses, I mean, clearly technology and digital has to be even more relevant today than it was before.
Absolutely.
And therefore acceleration of trends that were there before, as well as I guess some new shifts. I guess I'm thinking particularly around working patterns, knock-on impact of that onto different sectors, onto city centre versus rural. There's all sorts of interesting like, economic changes there. But yeah, I think for like a fast-growing business, for sure, sort of vanity metrics like customer numbers, I think are less relevant than unit economics and the path to profitability.
Yeah.
I think that was already the case before COVID. I think things like WeWork sort of exposed that in the market last summer. So there was that sort of shift thematically from investors, but COVID, I think, caused a double down on that. Capital's clearly become more selective around where it goes on the back of that. And I think payments businesses are better than lending businesses in terms of as you enter COVID, because clearly people entering COVID with a significant lending book, very few people have predicted this degree of impact or stress on that lending book. And you can see in the major banks the level of loan losses now being booked. So yeah, I think if you're an existing lender, lending fintech coming into this, unless you were very fortunate, you're going to be slowed down or stopped by losses on your existing book. So rather a payments business coming into this than a lending business. Yep.
No, I think you're spot on. I guess as well, like I talked yesterday in a session that I hosted the keynote speaker about hyper-personalization across banking products. And obviously this is just the heart of everything that Revolut does. It's how you have achieved this customer experience or customer interface and app that you currently have. I mean, how do you think in the round, I guess, as you kind of been at Revolut for the last year, how does the team really approach personalized banking? Is it really deep within consumer insight and reliant on consumer insight? Or are there other attributes that you kind of consider and parameters that you think about? You know, you've touched on data. Could you give the audience just some insight without giving away the secret sauce in terms of how you think about that personalized banking experience and really understanding customers' pain points and insights?
Yeah, sure. I think the essence of Revolut is simple, clean user interface design and great value. I think that sort of runs through everything, and then underpinning that through data. So, I mean, I wouldn't say we do, frankly, any real traditional customer insight type work. It's a lot more about iteration. So we do some surveys of customers in app and to kind of get some thoughts in advance of doing a feature. But a lot of it's about get a feature developed quickly, get a product developed quickly, and then iterate it with increasing groups of customers. Might be internal employees to start with, then a small alpha group, then a beta group, and then sort of you scale up from there. So yeah, a huge amount about then iterative, data-driven analysis of how customers are finding the experience. So yeah, things like NPS and so on features, but also like deep analysis of customer journey, customer drop-off rates, customer engagement with different features, different screens in the app, all that sort of stuff around designing the best possible customer journeys. And then you combine that with sort of customer engagement tools. We have CRM systems that seek to activate customers that sign up. They seek to get customers to use different services that could benefit them. And I think there's loads more to go after here. We did a big app redesign, which we released maybe a month ago, which sort of tried to make it easier to access the wide range of products and features that Revolut now offers. So it was all kind of stuck in a single dashboard tab, and now it's sort of broken out into separate towers for example, for savings and investment. And I think that new design offers a lot more ability to personalize what features you're surfacing using data, or what offers you're surfacing using data in future. I mean, for example, things like tailored perks and rewards, or pre-assessed credit options.
Yeah, and as a sample of one, it's just much more intuitive in terms of being able to see kind of the full end-to-end kind of capabilities, and to be able to, like you say, just choose what's right for me. But I'm an avid user, so I absolutely love it. And then, I mean, in closing, and again, tell us what you can. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what is next for Revolut? I mean, world domination. I mean, but in all seriousness, it's a phenomenal story. And I think, most of the audience will appreciate that it's no small task to achieve the number of customers, and like you say, the end-to-end kind of payments, savings, investment capabilities that you've achieved in such a short space of time. So where to from here?
Yeah, I think the pace of progress is very high. You're right. I sort of talk about dog years, where like 1 year is like 5 to 7 years.
Exactly.
In the world. I mean, I guess I think that's actually fairly well mapped out where we're going now. A lot of about execution. So, for example, rolling out the deposit and credit products under our bank license across Central and Eastern European markets, and also hopefully securing bank licenses in some other markets to roll out there. Developing in some newer markets for us. So I think particularly getting what we might call product parity. So having commonality of product features with Europe in markets like the US in particular, but also Singapore, Australia, where, for example, aspects like Revolut for Business either haven't launched or in early beta, cryptocurrency, stock trading, these sort of elements. So sort of making sure we've got the right products everywhere, so you can get the full Revolut experience everywhere. And then also combining that with some localized products. So in the US, for example, the get paid early feature, because the ACH system's so slow in the US.
Real-time payments there.
Yeah, and also various others. And then kind of finally, I guess some features. So like, for example, subscription tools, so help you manage subscriptions, tools for businesses to help people manage things like invoices, payroll, expenses. So yeah, I guess that's sort of rounding out of the digital tool set that helps you to kind of manage your financial life. So yeah, I think really same direction we've been going in for a while, but making sure that is kind of comprehensive globally, and we sort of keep adding to that value-added feature set.
Well, Richard, this probably brings our discussion to conclusion. It's been an absolute pleasure. I thank you for your kind of candor, your honesty. We wish you so much luck in your new endeavors and your new opportunities. And obviously, Visa values the partnership with Revolut, and that will continue. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.
Thank you.